Welcome to another episode of the Constitutional Confederate. I'm your host, John, the Southern Constitutionalist. So, Charlestonians, you guys need to listen up. We need to talk. So yeah, we have a new sheriff for Charleston County. And this situation that happened in the jail, the Buchanan jail or whatever, it's turning into a bigger problem than what it was, obviously. I actually thought this had happened during Al Buchanan's, the end of his term, like November, December time frame, but a friend and I were talking about it a day or two ago, looked it up, turns out it happened in January. In fact, it happened not long after the new sheriff's, which I can't remember her name, the new sheriff swearing in. And so it happened under her watch. Her defense is that it's his fault, blame him, so on and so on and so on. Now, this new sheriff ran on policies for BLM and Antifa and reorganizing law enforcement, which there is some work that needs to be done. I don't deny that. But she has very, very little experience. I have more experience in law enforcement than she does, and now she's the sheriff. Great, right? So, for one of my classes last semester, I had to do two of these community involvement things. One of them I did, it was over Zoom, but it was kind of like a town hall Q&A session with her a few days after her swearing in or something like that. She has over 200 officers that she's missing between the jail and sheriff's deputies. She's missing 200 officers. Or she's down. She's hiring process is definitely taking longer than it should. A reporter was there, asked her about her firing almost all of the sheriff's deputies for Charleston County. She says that she didn't fire them. Everybody was made to reapply, and the majority of the previous deputies just were not, put it in air quotes, invited to the party. First thing she does is she hires two people directly underneath her. And when asked about qualifications, she states that one is a black female. And she states that the other one is a female, and I can't remember if she's trans or lesbian, but she goes on and on about that. Okay, my question is, what's their skin color? What does their sexual orientation of choice have to do with anything? I want to know what their qualifications and experiences are. She continues to go on the same tangent, doesn't talk about whether they've got a background for law enforcement or any of that kind of thing. So there's that. Now we have 5 months later after this incident happened in the jail and this gentleman dies. The story goes on to, it's actually very confusing. At one point says it was a call out in public, and it was a call for psychiatric, and law enforcement showed up. Another one says that he was actually already in a psychiatric treatment facility and had gotten into a fight, and somebody was pressing charges, and so he was being arrested and charged and taken to the jail. I'm not exactly sure where that goes, how that goes or whatnot, but it started way back there. The issues started back there and carries over into the prison. I don't know how long he was there. He was supposed to go before the judge to see about possible bail, and apparently he was resisting. Got tased. Continued to resist. Got tased again. Got tased multiple times. He was resisting in between the entire time. And then by the time he stopped resisting, he died. So now 2 officers who have a combined experience of 15 years. One's been in the prison for 5 years. One's been in the prison for 10 years. Both of them have lost their jobs. They've lost their jobs now, recently. We had a protest over the weekend. We had a protest yesterday out in the city. The people are protesting and they want the county solicitor to press charges against these 2 officers. Charge them with murder, arrest them, take them to jail. There's a problem with that. The problem is these 2 officers followed standard operating procedure, along with the 4 or 5 other officers who were there. They all followed standard operating procedure. These are procedures that are in the guidebook. These are procedures that they learn at the academy, so on and so forth. Which technically protects them from any kind of a excessive force case. Well, it should protect them from an excessive force case, but it also protects them from a civil case. Is it going to? Probably not. This new sheriff is kowtowing and bowing down to kind of sort of street mob mentality. This is not a good thing. This is the same lady who one of her other campaign slogans was about transparency. Well, she wasn't transparent. It took 5 months for the 15 plus hours of video footage between jail cameras and body cameras to be released. Have I gone through all 15 hours? Hell no. I don't have that much time. Have I watched some of it? Yes. As I've said, in my experience and from what I've seen, they followed standard operating procedure. Now, here's the thing. According to her story, the new sheriff, this happened, she likes to say, 4 hours after she took office. Okay, well, in this situation, while you are at your celebratory party after you're swearing in, you should have gotten a phone call. And even if you didn't go, you still should have remained on the phone and discussed handling the situation. Obviously, that didn't happen. There's a problem with that, which means that falls on you. The family's not happy, although they have already gotten one of their demands for the protest. The two of the officers were fired. These guys were just shit-canned. Not even given a warning. From what I understand, the new sheriff previously tried to sweep it underneath the rug and pay him off. There was a lawyer involved. There was talk of a suit. I don't completely know, and partly don't care. So now we have protests. Yay. And demands are being made at these protests. 1 out of the 3 major have already been kowtowed to. To make matters worse, our representative for South Carolina District 1, Nancy Mace, has decided to open her mouth and chime in on this. Now, where Nancy Mace was in the state assembly, those things remained in-house, meaning they remained inside the state. Now, she's supposed to be representing us in D.C. There's some questions as to how well she's doing with that job, but we're not going to get into that. She spent a hell of a lot of time in front of the news cameras, the national news cameras. The last thing South Carolina and the Charleston area needs is somebody getting on the news, the national news, and bringing this story to the national news light. You are inviting Antifa and BLM to bus outsiders in, just like they did one night last summer for a riot. There brings up another problem. One of the things that she said during her campaign was that Al Buchanan, the previous sheriff, was using excessive force against protesters in Marion Square. When and where did that happen? You can't bring up footage, you can't show anything, because it didn't. It didn't happen. We had a little bit of a standoff over the summer, but excessive force was not used. I think it was like a dozen people arrested because they refused to disperse. They didn't have a permit or anything. Officers actually barricaded the area off and let them sit there for like 4 or 5 hours before they decided to break it up. Which they shouldn't have done. They should have gone ahead and broke it up from the get-go, since they didn't have a permit. So now you're pushing this into the limelight of outside entities from South Carolina and the Charleston area. The new sheriff, who has almost no experience, is still running her mouth and trying to place blame other places. Guess what? You took the job. You were on duty when it happened. The buck stops with you. The responsibility is yours. Whether you like it or not, it's that simple. If I worked on an aircraft, even if I did everything right and that jet crashed, my head's on the chopping block. They pull up all of our computer reports, they pull up our logbook, they pull up our written documentation, and they go through all of it. And anybody who's worked on that aircraft in the last 6 months, their head's on the chopping block. Unless it's proven to be something outside of anything that we worked on, or it's proven to be pilot error. But we face blame before the pilot does. It's the nature of the beast. You took the job, you took the responsibility. I'm telling you, you don't want to be bringing this stuff here. You need to, for lack of a better term, man up. At the very best, you should push for the county and the city to do an inquiry and see where improvements need to be made and start pushing for those improvements. And push hard and push fast. Quit trying to place blame everywhere except for you. Doesn't matter if you were on the job for 4 hours. If I was brand new to the flight line and I touched an aircraft, even though I was supposed to be in training and not working on it, my head would still be on the chopping block if something happened to it. It's the nature of the beast. It's taking responsibility for your actions, and it's also taking responsibility and being responsible for the responsibility you voluntarily took. Stop trying to bring in outside influences. Stop trying to create problems. Sheriff's job is to solve them, not create them. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm sure there's a lot more that I could say about this, but I've been trying to avoid it. I've been hearing it on the news so much lately, I felt like I didn't have a choice but to say anything, weigh in just a little bit. I'd rather not talk about it. I think Charleston is in for some hard times, so you guys watch your six.